Welcome back to Let's Talk Marketing. Today we have our virtual roundtable joined by Tom, Senior Content Strategist at Semrush Academy, and Brian, Head of Social Creator at Attio. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, hi guys. Today we're going to talk about content, of course, and video, but mostly important is that people usually see the finished content pieces, so the courses, the social posts, the videos, the campaigns. What we don't often see are the tools and the workflows and challenges behind it. So what happens behind the scenes? And that's what we're going to focus today in this talk about. So we're not looking at the strategy, nor the preparation, the theory. We're talking about the day-to-day reality, about content and creator-led growth. So what's working, what doesn't, and also how those roles look behind the scenes. Tom, Brian, welcome. Let's start with a quick intro round with each of you. Tom, why don't you start first, and then we'll move to Brian.
Of course, yeah. Hi, I'm Tom. So I've been thinking in the lead up to this how to describe what I do recently, but I'll call myself a content strategist and a writer, not necessarily in that order. It's a role that's evolved a little bit over time, but I think that's most accurate. So I've worked across B2B SaaS, B2C companies as well over the last decade, helping craft their brand story through content and writing. So from startups where I was part of their event function, so crafting messaging and positioning narratives, to Preply, where I met Brian, where Sophie also has some connections as well, where I helped grow their organic search function and webinar program with experts. And then later to Gartner, where I focused on research and thought leadership content, as well as lifecycle marketing. And now I'm at Semrush, where I'm part of the customer education team. So building the academy and knowledge bases for the Semrush Enterprise product. So yeah, very excited to be here to talk to you, both of you, and looking forward to the conversation.
Perfect, thank you. So let's hear from you, Brian, your intro.
Yeah, excited to be here. So I'm Brian. I'm a social and creator lead at Attio, a fast-growing London-based startup. I've been working in social now for almost a decade, which is insane to think about. That I've been working for 10 years in social. It's changed so much since I started, but I spent the last decade kind of doing a little bit of everything within like social. So I specialize in organic social specifically. But now have moved into like managing creator programs as well over the last 5 years. So excited to chat today.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. Let's just continue with you and looking at your stack reality. What specific tools were dominating your screen yesterday?
Yeah, for tooling, I have a pretty simple stack, I would say, but I use it every single day in terms of like the same tool. So my stack goes as follows, and I'll start with my favorite one because it like has changed the way that I work personally. I use a tool called Whisperflow. I don't know if you two are familiar with it, but it has literally changed the way that I work. So I personally hate typing. Like I'm not that good at typing, which I think is hilarious because I have a newsletter and obviously like I need to type it and put it together. But I hate doing it and I'm not great at it. So when I found Whisperflow, it is like expedited, one, the way that I work, and two, like I'm able to like one write in the way that I speak, which is super nice for me because again, I hate typing. And two, it's made me quicker with just about everything because I've comboed it with Claude. So like I use Claude as like my secondary tool. I use it every single day. It's my thinking partner. It's what I use to clean up copy, clean up my thoughts, whatever. Like I use it for just about everything. And when you combo it with Whisperflow, personally for me, it's a huge uh, change in the way that I work, and it makes me more efficient across the board. And the last tool that I use that I feel like everyone uses is Notion. So like I use Notion as like my database. It's like my brain inside of work, and it's connected to my Claude, which then automatically updates my Notion with things like inspiration or my content calendar or what have you. So yeah, I would say those three are like in my personal tech stack that I use every single day as a social pro. But yeah, curious to hear what you guys use and if you've tried out Whisperflow or anything else.
I have not. Have you, Tom? And if not, what's your go-to tool stack at Semrush Academy?
Yeah. So right now we're like what 2/3 of the way through Q2. So it's very much crunch time. There's a lot of content production, a lot of writing, kind of strategy is out of the way. So I would say similar to Brian that there's nothing too strange about the tech that I'm using for someone who works in content. I have used Whisperflow. I do like it. I love the way that it doesn't have to be Whisperflow. It can be another tool, but to use voice to walk, if you have an idea to actually, if you're on a walk or whatever, to actually capture it via voice, and then start to play with it with another tool like Claude, it is very effective. But really, I actually start with this. So my favorite tool is this, like to get the thoughts down initially, that initial brain dump. Yeah, I always have a notepad nearby, something analog before it becomes digital. But quite honestly, Google Docs is where I spend a lot of my time writing, working, and collaborating with freelancers. That's where a lot of the writing and kind of editing process takes place. We are using Claude a lot within Semrush. We're big adopters of AI. And that's where some of the drafting takes place within a project that is kind of pre-built with product messaging, positioning, guidelines. So it essentially works as a kind of co-writer as well. And Monday.com. So we're using Monday.com as a way to manage projects, to how they get timeline and managed kind of statuses get updated there. So those are always open for me. Google Docs, Claude, Monday.com, Whisperflow as a kind of additional layer in there to work with Google Docs. And finally, starting to work with Skilljar. So we're building this academy content within an LMS. So we're just starting to get the hang of it and explore it and see how we can best use it to host content. But yeah, that's kind of dominating my tabs at the moment. Just while we're doing this kind of upload to this LMS Skilljar.
Yeah, that's quite heavy stack that you're using, but I agree with sometimes I try to first write everything down on an actual sheet of paper and then I translate it into the actual tools and the workflows. So moving into this workflow friction part on your day-to-day. So maybe Tom, let's start with yours. You already mentioned Google Docs. That's where you start kind of editing and writing. It might be simple, but I guess, or I would assume that reality is much messier. So at Semrush Academy, you're currently producing some of the courses and self-service resources. What's the part of the process that you feel that cannot be sped up? And also moving into AI, which is everywhere now. Where do you see that AI is actually supporting your work versus where it's actually slowing down the process or creating new problems?
Yeah, sure. It's honestly, we're still in this messy middle of trying to figure out how to get the best out of AI, where it's most useful. I've seen teams building a whole content production machine around AI, where they no longer need to like discover or search for topics. They just pull in, for example, like SEMrush data via an MCP, and then they have like a ready draft available in their inbox, which is like magic. And I get that this comes from a place of like pressure, right? There's to speed up and to be more efficient in your content production because every industry, every business, every content team has been asked to execute more and faster because the technology is there. But um I'd push back on the idea that it works the same way across like all types of content. So AI, for example, for more product specific content, which is what we're creating, like onboarding courses, self-service resources, to teach someone a product step by step is a very different challenge. You can share docs with AI, you can share screenshots, but you still have to walk it through the product and be very precise. And after a while, you realize that it's actually faster to just do it yourself. So yeah, for a while, I thought I could use AI for so much of the drafting phase of content creation, to a point where I started to even neglect how important the step before that really is, like the initial discovery and ideation phase. And that's a very clear error. So for example, within like academy and course content, that can mean sitting with a product team for like 2 hours and going through step by step and asking all the annoying, intricate details, questions about a product that customers may be asking themselves, right? For blog or even social teams, and Brian might be able to tell more detail, is it could mean listening into sales calls, seeing what resonates with some buyers, because most of this really important context lives in people's heads. It's not in some or in like a random document or in a notepad. And you have to be a bit like a journalist to dig it out. That's not a part you can speed up. That's a part where you need to slow down and actually interact with people. And then you can draft with AI. But you need all those little details. Yeah, AI can't get you there, nor can it like edit them in afterwards when it's created.
Yeah, I like the example that it's in people's heads. So sometimes, myself included, I assume that AI has all the answers. Sometimes when I draft a post for LinkedIn on my profile, I just like tell AI, okay, I want to create a post about this topic, like draft me something. And then I go on so many iterations that, yeah, what you're saying, like sometimes if I just write it down and then just like let it run through spell check, it's much faster and also more authentic than when I start with like a scrappy prompt on some vague topic. Because yeah, like the idea, I have it in my head, but sometimes I just want AI to just like do the job. But yeah, it's not that easy. I was wondering, yeah, Brian, how does that compare to your world and social?
Yeah, just to add some context to what Tom said, I think it's really important that you need to provide AI with as much context as possible. Like, I think starting, like you just said, a cold start where you're like, hey, I want to write about X topic, like write it for me. Like, of course, the output is not going to be good because AI only works if it has like the context necessary to write a piece that maybe resembles what you want to get out. So in terms of product and what Tom just said, I think it's really important to do that first step and sit with those product teams and have that context before you go and write a script or you go and write a piece of content. So for like the social side of things, I'm lucky enough where I don't have to sit with the sales team and the product team and all these people to get all that context because all that context is provided for me. But the teams that are doing it, so like the PMM, so like the product marketing person who's going in and getting all of that context and getting all the nitty gritty and showing you how to use the specific tool or feature, all of that is necessary to write a good piece of content or to write a nice piece of copy. I think on social, the difference is like context matters and then like what you're publishing about matters, right? Like if you're launching product, you're not necessarily going to explain every single step and every single little thing you can do with a specific feature. It's like more focused on a specific use case and getting a user to like feel a certain way and then hopefully learn more about the product. But if the content piece shifts to like something more of like a walkthrough, or maybe it's focused on it's a showcase about a specific use case, then you need that context of like, here's a nitty gritty step by step on actually how to use this and the things that users might face when they try X tool or X feature. So yeah, I think number one here, like context is important and someone has to do that job when it comes to context, whether it's Tom or whether it's a PMM or whether it's like a salesperson who, or not even a salesperson, but like maybe a customer education person who's going to come in and be like, hey, Brian, here's how you use this tool and like sit me down and show me it. You need that context to get going, even for social.
Yeah, the context has to be done by human. So,
For
and
sure.
then you can use the AI to kind of, yeah, enhance it. But yeah, you still have to do a part of the job. And Brian, moving into execution of your part, that you're dealing more with creator relationships, could you take us behind the scenes of your last major campaign? Like, where does the friction start in your journey, in your role, and was it the contract, the brief, or the actual content delivery, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, so I'll take you guys back to our biggest launch ever at Attio, which was like 2 months ago. It was for Ask Attio, which is like our conversational layer that we built inside of Attio. And if you guys aren't familiar, Attio is a CRM. It's an AI CRM where you can manage your customer relationships. And Ask Attio was our biggest feature launch ever. So we wanted to activate the entire social ecosystem for it. And when I say ecosystem, that's like anyone you can think that's like associated to the brand. So that's founders, employee advocates, our creator partners, our creator program, executive leadership, all those folks. So focusing specifically on our paid creator partners, I'm a team of one at Attio, so I manage the creator function, the creator program, and then social, and I have some help from someone internally to kind of help manage the creator motion. For us, I'm managing 12 creators now, so we managed to activate all 12 creators for Ask Attio, which comes with its challenges because you have to literally review 12 different pieces of content alongside like all the other things that we're doing for launch. So for us, I wouldn't necessarily call it friction. I would say maybe the struggle for not struggle, but the challenging bit is having to review that volume of content from creators from varying different backgrounds. So like all the creators aren't sales creators or go-to-market creators. They're all different, right? Like we have a couple founders, we have a go-to-market engineer, we have a salesperson, we have someone who works in VCs and like has built her own syndicate. So these creators all have different backgrounds, which means their perspective and the way that they're going to use Ask Attio is going to be different to what we would maybe launch with from like a general launch perspective from the brand side. So for me, I guess the challenges were one, giving enough time to review content and making sure that I give like a watchful eye over things and make sure it's aligned with what we want to get across. Two, making sure that their use case made sense for like what we were launching, right? Like worst case scenario is like creator goes live and the use case that they're highlighting actually isn't possible and the prompt that they highlighted actually doesn't work. Like these are the things that you need to track when we're launching. So for me, it was just volume and making sure that like all these creators, what they were going out with, one, supported the tool and showed the tool in a good light, and then two, was it's actually possible. Like the use case you're highlighting is actually possible. So I would say that would have been the most challenging part for me from the creator side for this launch.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think volume in the end is something that can't be sped up. You need to go through it. You need the time, and it makes sense that it's kind of like the biggest piece of friction. So yeah, I wonder, Tom, moving into maybe not so much friction, but more on when you produce content, also video content. How do you decide how to label it? Like which content receives like a human face, maybe like a tutorial, or an expert and an internal host, or like which content would be anonymized? So do you have like any go-to plan there?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there are a few different factors. I mean, it depends on what type of content you're creating, but um yeah, to kind of touch what Brian said about creators and their use cases, like I think that's one that we're playing with a little bit in Academy at the moment is, there's this huge topic like AI search or marketing in general, and your company can have like a belief or an ethos behind how to do this thing, a methodology maybe. But then sometimes these topics are so broad, and you have to put your hand up and say, like, hey, we don't have all of the answers here. We don't know, but here are some experts that we speak to who have some solid approaches for this, who have some good ideas, that have some good use cases that may fit your situation. So I think that's one way to bring like a human element into content is like just put your hands up and say like we don't have all the answers, but we are connected with experts who use our tool, for example, that could have some really strong ways to use it. I think as well, like in organic search, we need to consider how adding experts is essentially information gain, right? meaning like what new content your article or your page is bringing into the conversation compared to competitors, compared to others. I'm sure this is partly why we're having this conversation right now, right, for this show. So that uniqueness like truly helps your rank in online search. So that's where adding like supplementary speakers or experts can really help. And we can't also forget about EEAT, so experience, expertise, authority, trust. And the expertise part being who has authored or who is like editing the content, and that stuff is really important from a search ranking perspective, but also from a very human perspective. Like if you think about it, if you saw like an article on WebMD, you want to know that it was at least vetted by someone with a medical background, right? Or a little bit of a background in the topic. And usually it's a search is a reflection of what's good for the user, not all the time. Like we can argue against that, but a lot of the time, yeah. So those are a few different ways we consider like what would be useful from a human, whether to choose to be human-led content or just like written content, for example.
Yeah, I see there's a pattern coming up because we're talking about content, we're talking about AI, and this human aspect is becoming so evident to actually stand out, to highlight the uniqueness, the vetting, the proof, the expert part, because AI is just like this soulless technology, which is great, but yeah, like to stand out, you have to add this human touch in the end. So I feel there's something worth mentioning in this roundtable so far. Moving into success metrics, one of my favorite topics as a performance marketer. So how do you measure like if a content piece did its job? So maybe Tom, could you start just like saying that which are stats, KPIs that you care about, and that you know that when these are actually like performing well, that content and product are converging.
Yeah. So like talking about my role now for the customer education team for Semrush, like we do look at page views. I know that's very basic, but it just shows that we're getting the word out and distributing, which of course is important. Like we a lot of teams, a lot of content teams will spend a lot of time in this kind of creation limbo where you're constantly pumping out new material, but you're not getting the word out internally and externally. So this is something we set goals for and make sure that we find ways to reach them. So yeah, it shows people are finding your content, which is a good step, but we're also looking a bit more, especially for courses, on the experiential side. So one cool way our team are doing this is through like adding a feedback form at the end of each course. It gives a quick like a check on NPS, and it's that helps us navigate on whether people are finding the content like clear and useful. And these are things that we're always checking against. Like, is it useful? Did you learn something? And is it clear? Like, are we actually explaining something in a manner that is helping you understand? And I mean, I'd love to report that we can tie all of this like neatly back to retention or so on. We're not quite there yet with a robust enough model. And though it's nice to be able to attribute, it's very tricky. But as we're building this academy, as we speak, this is kind of the goal as part of the long-term build. Hopefully, SkillJar can help us do that as well. But if we can prove out people are like sticking around, leaving feedback, that feels good, that feels important, and it's a good sign that we're actually helping people with our content.
Yeah, that's a big topic. It's mainly seeing the attribution of the content being reflected on the retention. So meaning translating the impact of the individual content pieces and saying, okay, these are content pieces that actually kept the users with us.
Yes,
And, I mean, that's,
exactly.
I think, something that's, difficult to track back because there are so many data points that you have to unify. So attribution, it's never first or last touch. It's like a lot of touches in between. And yeah, you have to make sense out of it. I'm wondering, Brian, what's your take on success metrics?
Yeah, from the social side, I think social or success on social comes down to two things, right? Like the purpose of social is to drive awareness for the brand, and then two, drive traffic to the site or to specific landing pages. So when we look at like those two roles independently, when I'm looking at like awareness metrics or like things I would look at are total engagements, right? But then there's a conversation of high value engagement and low value engagement. So I want to drive that higher value engagement, which would be saves, it would be sends, it would be comment, basically anything that requires the user to take an extra step. So like if you're sharing it with someone, you literally have to hit share and then pick the person that you want to send it to. If you're saving it specifically on LinkedIn, because they make it extremely hard for you to save a piece of content. Like if you are saving a piece of content on LinkedIn, it's because you really found it useful. So if I'm seeing that on my end, it's a signal to me of like, okay, this clearly resonated with X user. And then a comment. Obviously, a comment is high value because you're taking the time to consume content and then drop a comment. Sometimes you're just commenting because that person's your friend or you like the brand or whatever. But for the most part, it's a high value engagement depending on who it's coming from. So I'm looking at that from like an awareness perspective and obviously impressions and reach and things like this, because I think it's a good indicator of like, okay, this piece resonated, we should continue. And then traffic is very simple. Like we track everything through like UTMs and then make sure that we're playing our role in driving traffic to the site. Another way of measuring, and Tommy brought it up, of having like a robust modeling or data model to see how you're like contributing to like top line numbers, is we at my previous company had a mixed marketing model where we could see like the impact of social just because our social team was more robust and we had like a legacy YouTube program that was driving a ton of signups and things like this. So we were contributing dollars back to the business. But at Attio, for instance, our social program isn't super robust yet, right? Like I think we're at like level 1 of what social could be. So for us, we're also looking at onboarding surveys. I think it's a great way to check how effective your program is, especially from the social side of like having very clear parameters of like, here are your questions, like how did you hear about us, and social being like one of the questions, and then we obviously filter out by channel to get a little more drilled down with the context that we have. So that would be like what I would look at in terms of success, and then we can change it depending on like, we can get really granular here, right? Like if you guys have another 45 minutes to talk about it, we can talk about how when we're looking at video, we look at different things, right? Like I would define the success of a video differently than I would define the success of like a static piece of content. So like if I'm gonna give you a quick example for video, I would look at watch time. I would look at average time watched. I would look at drop off. I would see where users are kind of stopping, where we need to refine. Because my big thing with video, and I think it's really funny now of like, Sophie, I was actually gonna say in your previous comment of like, we're in a world now where everyone is like not anti-AI, but we want everything to be human, right? It's like, oh, I want this to be human, like it needs to be human led. And video seems to be the thing people are turning to of like, oh my God, I need to make more video because I'm going to be on camera and it's going to be my face on camera. But we don't actually think about like the stuff that comes with video of like, if you make a 1 minute video and people are only watching for an average time of 15 seconds, they're missing the entire point of your video. So for us on the brand side and like even my personal brand side of like, I refine and I look at those things on the back end, because if I'm creating a 2 minute video or a 1 minute video and people are only watching it for 10 seconds, then how much value am I actually providing? So yeah, that's kind of what I look at across the board in terms of success metrics when it comes to video, social, and then looking at things outside of our control, like an onboarding survey.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in video is the attention span. It's just like, because of TikTok, it's just like being reduced to really like, 5, 10, 30 seconds. So creating these type of forums where we talk about 30 minutes. It's like, wow, we should like, if people watch until the end, it's like a huge success. But just to follow up here, Brian, do you have like one single success metric that you look at, or is it more like mix that you just mentioned, you know, like looking at kind of like the overall picture?
Yeah, I think it's a mix because it adds like a more complete story, like especially from the social side. Like if I just focus on one thing, it doesn't tell the larger story. I think it gives you little bits and pieces. So for social, I like to tell that full story. And also like when we think of social, it's not just organic on my end, right? Like it's social, creator program, paid creators, employee advocates, like all of that tells a more cohesive story than me just saying like, yeah, we had 25,000 impressions last month from social content. Like for me, one, that's not impressive, and two, it's like does not tell the story that I wanted to tell. So I try to give as much as I can in terms of context across social as a business or as a function, so the business understands like the impact that social has.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, again, the context is important. So with one metric, usually you don't get the full picture. So having multiple metrics and knowing what they mean to understand what's actually going on, I think that's where you also need to get into the role. And we'll talk a little bit about learnings at the end. But first, let's tackle a little bit more the part of the daily reality and the tools. We already talked about the stack. So now it's more about the tool workaround for those tools that might be a little bit limiting in the usage. So Tom, I would say every vendor has like this promise that they have a seamless experience in their tool. Do you have any tool that's driving you crazy, and maybe you have some hack around it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's necessarily driving me completely crazy. But I'd love a closer tie-in between like the Google Docs that we're working on and like the project management software we're also using. So for example, it's a really small, silly thing, but in the project management software, you can't just like drop a link in for like you would a spreadsheet. You have to click like add new file and then choose the name. And it's just, for me, it's too many steps. I think we're all used to using like, for example, Notion, or even Google Sheets, where you can just drop a link in and everything is super intuitive. So sometimes we're kind of missing that step. And I feel like as well, like I've not really taken advantage of within Google Docs during the drafting process and during the editing process, like the built-in Gemini feature that you can use like the chatbot alongside the content that you're drafting. So it's probably an action point for me after this call to like just test that out as a way of kind of streamlining this content creation process. But yeah, I would say that that change that issue, again, it doesn't drive me crazy, it doesn't rob me of hours, but when you have 25 line items in a project management software and you need to like add everything super manually, then that's a lot of clicking and I don't want to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think anything that's taking more time than it's supposed to doesn't mean, yeah, it should drive us crazy. But if it could be sped up a little bit, then I think we'll take it. Brian, I don't know if you have any issue with any tool, so happy to step in. Otherwise, we can also talk about a little bit the maybe friction points that you might encounter with your day-to-day managing social content, because you might manage different departments. So yeah, you can share anything about a tool where you also have some craziness that you have to deal with, or jump right into like how you kind of create a workaround over these friction moments in your day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, I'll start with the tool. I mean, this is so specific to like me and in my workflow, but it drives me insane. I don't know if you guys have used Frame.io, so use it to like review video content. In Frame.io, when you're like leaving feedback on a specific part, you have to like put the little timeline cursor thing on the specific second, and then you have to like grab it and stretch it along the timeline to leave like feedback on a section, instead of having like the ability to like stop it and then like just pick another part of the timeline where you want it to end. You have to like drag it out, which drives me insane because half of the time it's not precise. And then if you accidentally click out, it then clicks out and stops, and you have to do it all over again. So that drives me nuts. And then two, I am not very good at like Figma. I mean, I love Figma, but I'm not like super well versed in like design and things like this. So for me, like working with our design team, there's a lot of things they tell me to do, or like, oh, just go and do this, and I don't know how to do it. So it drives me insane. But that's more my lack of ability and less the tool. But it does drive me nuts. I don't know how to do it. And yeah, and then the last one is like so super specific to Claude, but it's on Claude on like the iPad, for instance. You can't like, if you have a long response and you try to copy the whole response, you can't. You have to go paragraph by paragraph. It doesn't let you copy the whole thing, which is insane to me. Like it drives me literally nuts. And I like to work on my iPad, especially for things that I'm doing like outside of work. So those three things drive me literally insane when it comes to product. Very specific.
They're quite specific,
No,
yeah.
Totally with you with the frame. I've been in that exact situation as well.
Yeah.
It's very finicky, and you can't like zoom into the timeline and be super precise about the seconds. The timeline is like this small. Yeah, I feel you. I've been there. And Claude as well, like with mobile, for example, you can't access a project in mobile. Like you can see your long list of chats, but if you have a super long list of chats, like you don't know what chat to reference. So yeah, it's kind of similar from the iPad to mobile, I think.
Tom, you got to pin the chat, man.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
We're learning. We're learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to pin the
Let me
chat.
try
It'll
it.
solve your problem. It'll solve your problem on mobile because it pins across all your devices.
Thank you. Okay. Let me give that a go.
Perfect. I can answer your friction question now. If you'd like.
Sure. Go ahead, Brian.
Cool. So it's funny because I feel like the meme that you always see on social is like, it took legal forever to prove this, and we missed the boat. We couldn't publish it. I actually have never had a problem with legal ever from the social side. So that, yeah, 2 thumbs up. And for me, it's like, doesn't make sense. Like when people say that joke, or I can't resonate. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't resonate with me. I've never had a problem. When I worked at Microsoft, obviously a huge company, I was too low level to even have interactions with legal. I think that would be the only company that maybe would stop me from like publishing something. But when you work at like a startup, we're talking the level of approval is like 1, maybe 2 people max, and it's not very hard to get things out, and you're pretty welcome to test whatever. So never really had a problem with legal. I would say, now I wouldn't call it problems, but there's definitely been some friction with like PMMs in the past and sales folks, and even like other parts of the business that maybe aren't even tied to social, but then have an opinion on it. Because I feel like everyone on this call probably feels the same way, but like everyone has an opinion on social because they use it every single day. Like we all use social, we all have LinkedIn's, Instagrams, things like this. So we all have an opinion, and we're like, yeah, I know how to do this. Like I know everything that's going on. But obviously when you manage it for a business, it's different, and it's a very unique skill set. So for me, the friction that I've had in the past, for instance, for like PMMs, is like PMMs coming to the table, basically doing half of the work that I'm supposed to be doing. So like coming to like that first briefing call with like, oh, I've put together like the plan for social already. I just need you to review it. Or it's like, oh, I've already wrote initial copy. Feel free to use this as like your starting point. Try not to change too much because it's like already written in the way that I want it to be written. So these are the conversations that I've had to navigate over my time of like working at different startups, where maybe the startup isn't as structured as I'm used to, because I came from a big tech, more established company background to then coming to a team of like 6 people or 7 people in marketing, or sometimes even less, where it's like Joe has 3 different jobs within marketing and social was one of them. And now I'm here and he's like, yeah, I'm still kind of going to do this role. So for me, it's having to navigate that relationship of like, hey, I'm now here to own this function. How can I best support you from the beginning without you necessarily like doing all of the work? Like, how can I come in as an expert and be helpful here and make sure that we get the most out of social? And then two, from the sales side and like enablement side of things, I see a ton of friction here. Like, Tom, I don't know if you see it on your end. I know you don't work specifically in social, but I feel like when you work in marketing, like you play some role in employee advocacy. And for me specifically, like I manage like, not that I manage the advocacy program, but I put together these like social guides for like bigger launches and things like this, where you enable the entire company, specifically sales, who maybe is more active on social, like a channel like LinkedIn, to publish, right? So the friction I'm having with like, or that I've had with enablement is you write the copy options, you give the context, you give the asset, you give the instructions, and then people still publish the wrong thing, or they publish copy that isn't approved, or they publish an asset. Like, this is a real example, by the way. Someone published an asset one time. I'm not going to say who it is. They screenshotted the asset from the brand side on LinkedIn and then published it on their personal brand with the border of like the LinkedIn UI, like you can see it still. And they use that as the asset. And I messaged them and I was like, hey, like, what went wrong here? How did we get here? Because like there's a folder with like all of these assets that you can choose, like 6 different options. And this person decided to go with this. So the friction point here is you can give someone everything, every single thing with the clear instructions, with free help, with whatever. People still will get it wrong. So on my side, the challenge is how do I, one, navigate that conversation, and two, how can I enable these folks and get them to, I've done 90% of the work, but how can I get them to publish that last thing and make sure that it goes out correctly? So those would be like the two main friction points that I faced maybe in the last 5 years across these different startups that I've worked at.
Wow, that's really funny in a way. I mean, it's not funny, but
Oh, it's funny.
I have
No,
to
it's
laugh
funny.
because
It's
I
funny.
mean that's I think
I laugh.
something very common going on in a lot of companies, and I think one of the frictions is also that people in the companies as social advocates, either they just ignore completely the request to share, so they're just not doing anything. But yeah, that then even though if you give them everything prepared, they just like share something completely different. So yeah, what about you, Tom? Did you have any of those stories or encounters?
Yeah, I completely feel you with. I mean, I didn't have the exact example of someone screenshotting the UI of LinkedIn. That's a very unique case. But I mean, that is part of the challenge, right? To get a consistent through line through product marketing to the different channels, to the blog team, to social advocacy, just getting this through line of a clear message that is not kind of jumbled up. And I suppose we'll maybe touch on it in a little while, but this is what, in the end, like AI platforms need a consistent message to understand a brand. And that includes across LinkedIn now. Like it's pulling LinkedIn as a cited source. And therefore, if someone is like changing, modifying how they talk about a brand, that can impact how a brand is perceived in online search in AI search as well. So yeah, it's something where yeah we're doing our best to kind of control the message and give the clear message, but it can still be tampered with. However, some programs like advocacy programs it's sometimes difficult to get them off the ground and get people to actually share. So it's almost like this seesaw of like, okay, they're sharing, fantastic, but they're also sharing something that needs tweaking, that needs refining. So yeah, no specific stories, but I definitely feel your pain, Brian.
Yeah, and maybe Tom, let's look at since you're at Semrush Academy, and I mean Semrush is well known for also the tool to see how you're ranking and positioning. So with the rise of AI and how content has changed and content production has changed over the past months, years, what are like the content strategies that actually worked, to gain positioning for SEO, for GEO, for citations? You mentioned to get it right, the message across LinkedIn. So yeah, what is actually influencing the positioning versus what just sounds good on a LinkedIn post?
Yeah, pressure. There's because there's so many counter narratives and all sorts of narratives right now. It kind of makes you dizzy. It's there was a case someone in my team shared. They went to an event where someone was on stage talking about, for AI search, list calls are perfect. We recommend using list calls and creating list calls and appearing on list calls. The very next person on stage said, list calls, scrap them, get rid of them. They don't work. So it's really conflicting, like what you're hearing, and very confusing. And what I love is that recently the Semrush customer education team has worked closely with like in-house and industry experts to start building a methodology of how to think about this. It's an approach we're calling the AI operating system, which you can actually search for now. And it's an approach, right? It's not the final be-all end-all strategy that's going to completely end everything when it comes to AI search. But essentially, the crux of this methodology is that it all comes down to, and it's ironic because everyone was saying SEO is dead, but like strong SEO foundations, right? You need a site that is technically healthy, that has access to quality content, high quality content, that offers something new, that offers information gain, EEAT. That's kind of a given. Those are the foundations. But it's kind of what I was mentioning before. It also means a new alignment across different teams to all speak the same message. So the role of the SEO manager, who was previously just like looking at keyword research, keyword strategy, has completely evolved, because now they're also saying, hey, how do we get product marketing in the room, brand in the room, social in the room, to talk about the same message everywhere for us to help with this clarity. So clarity about how AI search is speaking about our brand, and visibility. And that involves, like I said, social, but also third-party sites, reviews sites. And it needs to be consistent, because you could search for your tool in Perplexity, and it will say something very different than ChatGPT. It will say something very different to Claude, and none of it is what you want to be known for as a brand anymore. So yeah, I would say like it's not like really a tactic or a hack, because it's the long game, right? There's not one way of doing this. It's hundreds. But the most important thing is that alignment. So auditing how AI talks about your brand, how consistently you're mentioned compared to competitors, for which topics as well, and then show that with the rest of your team to get buy-in and do something about it, like collectively across channels.
Yeah, I guess also how you appear on review platforms, especially if you're a SaaS, so a software product, how people use you. And you can also see the source, so how you appear, how your brand appears, and where it gets cited. But yeah, I also heard that in general, it's that the story you're telling across your different channel is coherent, so that people don't get confused, and but also it's like ever changing. It's not something that there's a framework that you can apply and it will work now and in a month or in 2 months. So it's like evolving.
Yeah,
So you have to kind of be flexible.
it's SEO. It's SEO. It's the long game. It's what we always say with SEO. It's not something you see results for next week, but you need the right strategy in place to be able to see those results later down the line.
Yeah, totally. Brian, is there anything you would like add to this topic, or general like AI and trends, maybe also challenges that you see marketing teams might be facing or what's your take on how content and content strategy is changing?
Yeah. Yeah, my take on it is AI has like lowered the barrier to publishing, right? Like the big thing before AI was publishing a piece of content was extremely hard to do, or was harder to do than it is now. Like now everyone and their moms can go and publish stuff on social, and they can go onto Claude or they can go onto ChatGPT and be like, I want to write about this thing. And you'll get something that is poorly written. It sounds like AI, and you can publish it, right? Anyone can do that. So AI has lowered the barrier to be active with content. Now, we live in a world where people want to consume quality content, right? So now we're in the world where human craft and content that is like super specific and very helpful and built to be shared is like what people want to consume. So now this like rise in AI slop has made us more like, oof, I want to consume something that's actually worth consuming. So I would say now that the barrier is lowered, the bar for content is super high. It's super, super high. And you can see it on LinkedIn, where now LinkedIn is moving to an algorithm that isn't follower based, right? Now it's an interest based graph. It's based off of like what you're consuming, and what LinkedIn thinks you're going to be consuming. So you'll see like this shift now. I mean, you've already seen it on other channels, but on LinkedIn specifically, you're going to see the shift where maybe impressions do go down. Like impressions for me have gone down over the last 2 weeks because LinkedIn's now trying to figure out like what's quality and what is worth serving and what are people going to consume. So you'll see like the the battle between AI slop and like quality content is full on right now. And now that the reason why that's happening is because that bar has been lowered. So I would say content teams are going to be very busy over the next I mean maybe over the next decade. Who knows how things change, but I think content is a tough job right now because the bar is so high for quality content.
Yeah, and it's almost counterintuitive. One must maybe think that, oh, the content jobs are at risk, but it's actually the other way around. So you actually have to almost invest more quality, time, effort in producing high quality content to stand out. So good news for the content editors and content strategists out there. And
Exactly.
yeah, moving into the last bit of this roundtable, lessons learned from your experiences. So let's just continue, Brian, with you. So what's a single or two single big lessons that you learned the hard way, maybe from managing content, social, or, if someone would have to start your role on Monday, is there something that you would give them as piece of advice?
Yeah, I have three pieces of advice because I think they're really crucial for anyone thinking about working in social. So, number one is hold a really high quality bar for everything that you do. So that means a couple things. So when I say that, it's number one, keeping your audience and who you're speaking to always in the center of everything that you do. Because I think it's very easy to see like this is just an example, and I don't hate on any brand that jumped in on this. Spotify changed their logo to the disco ball, right? Every single brand on LinkedIn jumped and changed their logo to the Spotify disco ball, which is totally fine. It's like easy piece to pick up. Those things come and go, whatever. I'm not big on trends like from the brand side. I think like they're fine. You can jump in on them if you want, but the pieces that really matter and the things that you should be focusing on, always have your customer in the center. So that's number one. Like when you're thinking about quality, think about your customer. And then two, every piece that you work on, take your time with it and make it really intentional, whether that's with the copy or thinking through the format or thinking through the asset. Because I think the biggest misconception or the biggest issue I see in social is like people lead with formats, right? People come in and they're like, I want to make a video. And it's like, you don't even know the idea. You don't even know what the script that you have no idea. So it's like, you need to understand the concept and why you're making it before you decide on concepts. So always hold a high quality bar. Two is publish and refine based on data and not just vibes. I think that's like another big thing of like making decisions off of like personal bias or oh, I think this is going to be really cool, and then not having anything to back it up. I think in social, it's a slippery slope because it can quickly become like, oh my God, I saw this. This is so cool. I want to do this. And that's okay to like spark an idea, but you need to have something to base it off of. So for me, it's like everything that I do, it's like always rooted in real feedback. It's always rooted in data. It's always rooted in something that I've tested in the past or like experiences that I've had. And I try to make my decisions, not all decisions, but most of my decisions, I try to root in data or feedback that I've had or a conversation that I've had with like a creative team or a piece that I've written in the past. And then the single most important thing, like out of these three, I think this is super important, is be really easy to work with. So social is extremely cross-functional, right? Like if you are a social pro, you are most likely working across product, a creative team if you have one, a sales team. You're probably working with like employer brand if your company has it. You're definitely working with like other marketing folks because you're part of that marketing function, and you have to be very easy to work with because if you're not, no one is going to want to work with you, and getting things pushed out is going to be very difficult. Like early on in my career, I maybe wasn't the easiest person to work with, and now that I'm older and more mature, I can look back and be like, okay, I can see why this is very annoying. So, like, for instance, if you have a bad relationship with your creative team, they will make your life so difficult to get content out, especially if you are dependent on them to create like assets, right? Like in one of my first roles, it's like I would like be so headstrong of like, this is the idea, this is what I want, dude, don't change it. And then the creative team would be like, yeah, I don't want to work with this guy. So now it's like I try to focus on building those relationships first. It's a little give and take sometimes. Sometimes you don't get what you want, sometimes you do get what you want. But in the long run, having a healthy collaborative relationship will make your life 1,000 times easier, especially from the social side. So those would be like the three pieces of advice that I would give like a starter in social.
Don't be a grumpy cat because
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean, it's also easier if you're a nice and kind person, then people are much more likely to make a favor. Tom, any recommendation for someone who would take your job tomorrow?
Taking my job. Or
Yeah. Yeah,
oh
your
man.
job.
Yeah, I've got to watch out. Especially with all this AI stuff. I mean, I would say I'll go with a trio, as Brian did as well. I would say first of all, learn about this AI stuff. I mean, learn about it, learn how it can be used to cut things that took like painstaking hours and was super manual, but study where it goes wrong, what it repeats, what it sounds like, what is obviously AI. And most importantly, try not to take it, like use it to take away things that you enjoy doing at work. Don't let it take away from like the ideation process, kind of that early stage that I was talking about earlier that requires like analog input, and even the polishing stage, that kind of area where you have to really think through if this is carrying across the message that you want. Because that trains your eye, trains your critical thinking, and if you don't have that, you're dead basically. And if you do that, you'll be all right in content and as a writer. And hopefully that means you'll also have fun because we're all here to have fun, right? And two, be aware like content is often a game of like quality and speed. It's like a seesaw. Like you can, a lot of time you need to push back against executing something very quickly, but you're also playing with like the more time and love and insight and so on that you put into it. It's quality, right? So you're always playing against this seesaw and try to get somewhere in the middle. And navigate, be ready to navigate when there are conversations about speed, timelines, and so on. And be prepared to what you're going to do about quality and helping people, the brand stand out with their content. And usually that is if something is accurate, at least on my side at the moment, is accurate, clear, useful. Um, and three, I would say have a side project. Have a project where you are just letting loose, and creating something. This is also kind of a training mechanism. It's good, I think, long term, and it enables you to think about what you truly believe is important. It puts you through moments where you have to research deeply about topics, and that's great for content as well. So yeah, have a side project, have a side hustle, try new things, test, break stuff, launch stuff. I heard someone recently say, I was talking about, I feel like I have too many projects a lot of the time. I'm like writing fiction and I'm like trying to work on my blog and so on. They're like, hey, some of the most interesting people I know have a ton of different projects and are just enjoying themselves with their projects. So like, don't worry if you have a bunch of side projects, like enjoy it. So that's why I would say those are the three I would say.
I love both the 6 recommendations that you have. I would definitely second the quality and the enjoyment, because in the end, if you really care about something, you're willing to take that extra step, like that extra plus, and that will eventually then, increase the bar. So it's up to you. But obviously you have to balance also timelines, deadlines, and enjoy yourself. Because otherwise, what's the purpose?
What's it for?
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Where can people find more about your work, Tom, and then Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Sophie, for hosting this. It was really cool. And Brian, good to talk to you again. Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I don't post all the time there, but every now and again I'll drop some posts. But you can check out my website, huntingthemuse.net. It's where I publish articles on content, creativity, and like the writing life. It's a space where I write about the things I'm genuinely curious about. And if you're curious about similar things, then you might enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you. Brian, where can people connect with you or find more about what you do?
Yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just Brian De Silva on LinkedIn. I think I'm like in the first page if you search that. So you connect with me there, and then I have a newsletter that I write on Substack called Organic Social Club, focused on social and content in general. So if you're interested in that stuff and you want to learn more about organic and how to run organic social programs, then might be a good one for you guys to check out.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. I feel I've learned so much in this chat, and my mind just got expanded a little bit more, which I love when that happens. So thank you both to agreeing to having this roundtable. And to our listeners, thank you for listening and follow us. See you next time. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye bye.